Hello from the middle of our 5 acres of remote rural land. We talked about this about a week ago and lots of questions and lots of comments. So I wanted to cover it some more of why you want to purchase right now 5 acres of remote rural land. Welcome to Goose Pond Hideout with Rob. My goal is to be your voice for freedom. Ooh, excuse me. So anyway, I'm here in the middle of our 5 acres that we purchased a few years ago. And I'll be right honest right off the bat, and it's exactly 5 acres, and it's like a perfect rectangle. It's about, well, behind me is to the east. I'm looking west, so behind me is east, and the road is out on the front of the property in my background there, a few hundred feet. And it's a little over 500 feet along the road, and then it's about 400 feet on the sides, and then the 500 feet on the backside. Again, it's like a perfect rectangle, which is pretty rare to find these days. But one of the main reasons that I purchased this 5 acres is, to be honest, is I didn't want anybody else to buy it. We're in a little unincorporated, really rural town. Again, when we moved here 10 years ago, there was no cell service, and it was pretty quiet here. We have cell now at our house. And I'd heard rumors that one of those dollar stores was looking for a piece of property, and I'm like, this piece of property would be too perfect. And it's all woods. It's woods to the east behind me. It's woods to the north, to the west, to the south. I mean, the property is complete woods, and in my opinion, it's what they call an unbuildable property because of drainage issues and that. But of course, they'd come in and they'd clear all the trees, log it right off, haul in dirt, raise it up, and build their store with lights. And I didn't want that in here. So anyway, that's one of the main reasons, kind of rambly there, but that I bought this property. But the really though is the reason you should buy a piece of property like this is woods. All the trees, so you have firewood to heat your house and cook on, and things like that. One of the things that you might want to look for is water, because obviously water is super important. And right behind us there, in the spring and the early summer, there's actually a seasonal creek, and the water runs back there. So and the ground gets all squishy wet, so it wouldn't be hard for us to have a source of water here. So that's something that you want to be thinking about is your water. Now, one of the big questions, one of the comments that we got was that, well, not anybody can, everybody can't just go out and buy 5 acres of land. Well, I mean, I know that that's true, but I'm talking about, you doing it specifically, what works for you. And if you get way out in the middle of no man's land with a, difficult access, one way in and out, maybe, hopefully there's water on the land, but maybe there isn't. We're fortunate that we have water. It's not buildable, so you can't really, buy a piece of land where nobody can put a house on it or anything like that. The value is going to be lower. And, look at what you can spend. And granted, we could put the money in the bank and the interest would pay for propane instead of me chopping down trees. The property taxes are a few $100s on this wood lot. We could pay the electric bill for a couple of months with that. Or again, buy propane for traditional heat. But what happens if those things aren't available? I mean, look at everything that's been going on lately, and the sensitivity and the vulnerability of the grid and food supplies and all of those things it's more than just the money factor, that, you know, you need to find a way to make it work. So I was thinking about it, and one of the things, you know, family. When I was a kid, all the families, you know, that I knew in that, everybody had a getaway place. It might be a little camp on a lake where all the camps, you know, were piled up on top of each other, but, you know, which wouldn't be a good remote place. But again, I'm just making the point of families had camps, or you might be a fishing camp out in the wilderness, or a hunting camp, or whatever, and it like belonged to the family, and because it was, you know, handed down from previous generations, and everybody would, you know, had access to it and could use it. So maybe you, depending on your size of your family, but maybe, you know, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, whatever, you could all go in on it together so that you have a place to get to. I would really caution against doing it with friends, because that tends to never work out well. You know, over 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, how do friendships last? What happens if somebody gets in financial trouble and they need to sell their share so that they can, you know, they get divorced, or, you know, bad things happen. So I would really caution against doing a group community property with friends, co-workers, you know, that type of thing, is because, you know, unless you do it real legal, you know, everybody's name's on the deed and title and that, and it's just, you could be looking at trouble down the road. So be thinking about that. And that's, you know, again, water, food sources, you know, find a spot. I've been thinking about over this way on the south end of the property, of clearing enough trees that I could put a garden over there, so when the sun's coming from the south, it'll, you know, get enough sun for a garden, that type of thing. Maybe you could make like a little pond where the creek is, so you'd have water there, those types of things. So really be thinking about it. I really think that it's your best interest to, you know, within about 200 miles of home. If you live in California, you know, you may have to go to another state. If you live in New York, you might not, because of the taxes, and that'll probably be painful, is, you know, some other place. But you don't necessarily have to go, you know, super far away. And again, it's just to have something that you can get away to. If you lived on the Gulf Coast, for example, and a hurricane's coming, you know, you can drive inland a couple hundred miles and you know, camp out on your property till the storm passes. You're not dependent on anybody else, you know, a church or you know, the town with the center where the, you know, people go to, and that you can't take your pets, and you worry about your kids and things. It's just many reasons why you having your remote property is going to be the best situation. Figure out how you can pay for it. Not everybody's going to be able to do it, but hopefully you can. You can purchase your 5 acres, you, your family, and you have your place to get away to.